afternoon, everyone. Let me be your teacher for today. I am Divine Rose Jacobigkis, or you can call me Teacher Divine. How are you today, class? I hope you are well, staying safe and healthy. This is the Child and Adolescent Learners and Learning Principles. Today, we are going to talk about the issues on human development. What is human development? Human development is the pattern of movement or change that begins at conception and continues through the lifespan of a person. It has to do with the creation and improving the living condition where people can develop their full potential to have a long and healthy life, can have an access to an appropriate education system, and to have an opportunity to live according to their needs and interests. Human development means the capability of a long and happy life. Human development is the scientific of the quantitative and qualitative ways by which people change over time. When we say quantitative, these are changes in the number of amount of something such as height or weight or size of vocabulary. For example, a quantitative change would be a child that has grown 4 inches and gained 20 pounds, while qualitative change refers to the increase in skills and complexity of function resulting in increased specialization. For example, would be going from crawling to walking stage or beginning to talk from a babbling stage. These examples show a change in the quality of movement and the quality of communication. Now, let's go to the issues on human development. Here are the issues on human development. First is the nature versus nurture. Second is the continuity versus discontinuity. And the third one is stability versus change. Let's start from nature versus nurture. The differences between nature and nurture is pretty straightforward. There are many nature versus nurture debates. It is one of the oldest philosophical issues within psychology. So what exactly it is all about? Nature refers to the genetics and all the factors that are inherited. It is the combination of genes that we have naturally inherited from our biological parents from their DNA. Many characteristics are controlled by our genes, including our blood group, eye color, or natural hair color. On the other hand, when you talk about nurture, you talk about the variables of the environment or things you get from the world around you after you are born. Nurture refers to the effect of the environment on characteristics. The word literally means care. Examples of characteristics that are determined by the environment are weight or mass, which is dependent on your diet. Imagine a plant has not received enough sunlight or water. This may influence the height of the plant or the numbers of fruits produced. We would say that the environment has influenced these characteristics or that a plant has been affected by nurture. Can you decide if each of these characteristics is controlled by inherited characteristics or the environment or both? Where would each go on a Venn diagram? Pause the video while you answer, then let's see if you get the correct answer. Did you get them right? Some characteristics are tied to environmental influences. How a person behaves can be linked to influences such as parenting styles and learned experiences. For example, a child might learn to say thank you and please. Another child might learn to behave aggressively by observing older children engaged in violent behavior on the playground. Philosophers such as Plato and Descartes supported the idea that some ideas are inborn. On the other hand, thinkers such as John Locke argued for the concept of tabula rasa, a belief that the mind is a blank slate at birth. According to this notion, everything that we are and all of our knowledge is determined by our experiences. But today, most experts recognize that both characteristics are influenced by both genetics and the environment. So next is the continuity versus discontinuity. Continuity and discontinuity are two competing theories in developmental psychology that attempt to explain how people change through the course of their lives. Think about how children become adults. Do children go through gradual changes or are they abrupt changes? Not all psychologists agree that development is a continuous process. Some view development as a discontinuous process. They believe development involves distinct and separate stages with different kinds of behavior occurring in each stage. Continuous development sees our development as a cumulative process. The continuity view says that change is gradual. What developmentalists mean by continuity is whether or not the changes that intervene in the course of development are of a qualitative nature or only quantitative. This concept is important for an understanding of the equilibrium model development as set forth by Jean Piaget. In his model, it is clear that there exist qualitative distinct stages or levels of development. At the same time, there seems to be implied a continuity development which is more than quantitative. On the other hand, discontinuous development sees our development as taking place in specific steps or stages. Changes are sudden. The discontinuity view sees development as more abrupt, a succession of changes that produce different behaviors in different age-specific life periods called stages. The discontinuity view of development believes that people pass through stages of life that are qualitatively different from each other. For example, children go from only being able to think in very literal terms to being able to think abstractly. They have moved into the abstract thinking phase of their lives. Developmental psychology encompasses a very wide array of observations related to how people think, behave, and interact with their environment as well as other people. This field at first was focused on how young children develop, but in recent years, it has expanded past the pediatric setting to encompass studies of how people change throughout the course of their entire lives up until the point of their death. So the third issue on human development is the stability versus change. Stability implies personality traits present during infancy endure throughout the lifespan. The stability change debate describes the developmental psychology discussion about whether personality traits that are present in an individual at birth remain constant or change throughout the lifespan. For example, does a naturally extroverted and talkative baby remain that way for their entire life? The stability versus change debate is one of the fundamental questions in developmental psychology, along with nature versus nurture. Studies of children have often revealed impressive stability over time in aspects of development such as the attachment to their parents or in personality. However, there is evidence which suggests a contrary view, that change is both possible and indeed slightly under appropriate conditions. Freud was one of the first psychologists to emphasize the critical nature of our early experiences for our later development. He believed that how we resolve our sexual and aggressive urges is strongly tied to the nature of our personality as adults. So those are the three issues in human development. Before I end this lesson, I have one question. why do we need to understand the human development? Answer it in your own understanding. Thank you for listening and goodbye.